To talk more about Pope Leo XIV's message, we are joined by SABC News specialist correspondent Sophie Mokoena. Sophie, thank you so much for your time. We do hope that you had a great Christmas today. We've just heard how Pope Leo XIV in his Christmas Urbi et Orbi message, and he has appealed for peace first for Ukraine, but he has also not left out for the clamors of weapons to cease in Sudan, South Sudan, Burkina Faso. How significant is this plea at this time for the people of those countries, but also for the Pope's own legacy, since this is his first message, and what it is shaping for his future going forward?
Well, many people were expecting that he will focus on the scripture, much as he was going to touch on some of the issues. It was not expected that he will go at length in singling out areas where there are conflicts. And therefore that speaks to him carrying on with the legacy of the Pope who has passed on. We know that he was very keen in ensuring that there's peace in the Middle East and in Ukraine. But we see Pope Leo XIV going as far as Latin America and also the Caribbean, touching different regions where you have conflict. And therefore, it's clear that for him, peace and security and tranquility is something that he stands for, as we know that even the scriptures talk about the world that is supposed to be at peace. And I think he's continuing with that message.
Yeah. Let's talk about what he also touched on, which I thought was quite significant when you look at the visuals of everyone that is looking up to him during this time. And he says we should also pray for the people who are unemployed at this time, and those that are employed but are not paid enough, which I thought was quite significant. Those people may as well could have been in the audience right there. What do you make of that?
Another indication that he is really focusing on issues of social injustice, in terms of trying to highlight the fact that this is not right and something must be done, and bringing the message closer to home to say, as many will be celebrating and with all the food and, you know, a good time, we must remember there are those who are not privileged enough to celebrate. Some don't even have food on the table. Even those who are working, what they are earning is so little they can't even afford. And therefore it was an appeal to leaders to understand that there are people who are suffering in the world. Because we can see when you look at leaders, the world has become so brutal in terms of self-serving leadership, only thinking about their families and friends. And therefore, I think it was an appeal to the conscience of leaders that there are many people who are suffering around the world, and they must remember as leaders that they are supposed to care for those who are less privileged.
Sophie, a similar plea from Archbishop Thabo Makgoba last night at the St. George's Cathedral, him also mentioning the issue of Benin, Equatorial Guinea and Sudan as well. To you, I'm sure it reads that at this time, this is when powerful voices like the voice of Pope Leo XIV and Archbishop Thabo Makgoba will reverberate even soundly and more powerfully to the leaders and those that need to make decisions.
You are correct. This is a moment for them to send a strong message. You know, Diabo, if you have been to these countries, you will understand why they are calling for peace. When I was in Burkina Faso, when I saw how people are trying to recover from years of poverty and deprivation, much as there are resources in that country, it's very painful. Whether you go to Guinea, Conakry, 2 years back, it is the same, particularly the Sahel region, how those countries could not be able, particularly the leaders who were there, help their own people to live a better life.
Yeah.
It is very difficult, and therefore I think it is during this time where voices of those who are in the religious leadership to be able to make a clarion call to the current leaders of the world that there are still people who are suffering either because of wars, poverty, or unemployment.
I just have a few minute or two with you, Sophie. We're expecting the elections in Guinea-Conakry. You did mention it briefly in the answer you just gave me. They're set to begin on Sunday. What can we expect there? And perhaps for our viewers who may not have an idea about the politics of Guinea-Conakry, how would you explain it to them?
Guinea-Conakry is part of the area, the West Africa region, particularly the Sahel region, your Burkina Faso, your Mali, your Guinea, Bissau, where you have a problem of insurgents. And the country is very unstable because there's constant insurgents attacking those countries. But above all, those countries are still underdeveloped. And many of them are complaining that the former colonies are still plundering the resources of those countries. Now, there was a coup in Guinea-Conakry some years back, and the current military ruler, that is Mamadou Dombo, will be contesting elections. It is hoped that other people will be able to contest elections as well, so that you have a democratic transition. And we know that after the coup, these countries are being suspended by the AU and the regional organization ECOWAS. Therefore, they can't interact with other countries. Therefore, after elections, you will start seeing maybe ECOWAS reaching out, bringing them back in the regional organization, and of course, the AU will follow. And therefore, there will be interaction. They can also build relationship. I know the Foreign Affairs Minister of Guinea-Conakry was in South Africa some few months ago, but he couldn't get that attention that he was supposed to get, because remember, that country is under military rule after the coup, and the South African government couldn't go public and show off that he is in the country. But those kinds of engagement, pushing them to hold elections so that they can come back to the fore. We saw the former South African president 2 years ago in Guinea-Conakry engaging the very same general, advising him to hold elections so that you can have a democratic country. So let's see what's going to happen. Many will still complain, but there's hope that after the elections, many will reach out to Guinea-Conakry so that they can interact with the continent.
Sophie, thank you so much for your time. I've been speaking to Sophie Mokoena, who is the SABC News specialist correspondent.